This is CBC Vancouver News.
Canadian actor Matthew Perry has reportedly been found dead at his home in Los Angeles. Plus,
we've certainly had some winter calls that have come in for people that have gone ultralight. They've been caught off guard that there's snow.
An early winter warning from search and rescue crews to anyone heading into the backcountry. And
I want to see the environment clean and healthy and thriving, and I think it's important to be responsible of our impact.
Trick or trash. Dozens of young people sweep across the coastline for a Halloween-themed shoreline cleanup. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin in the Middle East, where the second phase of Israel's Gaza war has begun. That was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's announcement today amid heavy ground operations launched last night. For Israelis, his message was that the war would be long and hard, while in Gaza, the entire enclave is virtually cut off from the world. But just within the past few hours, several Palestinian media outlets are reporting that telephone and internet communications are just starting to gradually return to the Gaza Strip. The CBC's Margaret Evans is in Jerusalem with our top story tonight.
Palestinians will be bracing themselves for another long and uncertain night. Yesterday's strikes described as the most intense in 3 weeks of war, along with an expanding Israeli ground operation. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it the second phase of the war. We have set two goals for the war, he's saying: to annihilate Hamas by destroying its military and to do everything possible to bring our hostages back home. The military says it is targeting underground bunkers and tunnels used by Hamas, as well as the militant group's leadership. The Palestinians say it is mainly women and children who are dying. Large parts of Gaza now reduced to rubble, the displaced struggling to find food and clean water. We want the war to stop, says Noah Alcour. We lost our loved ones, our relatives and our children. All my siblings and their children are gone. But there is more war on the way. This a warning delivered by Israeli military spokesman Daniel Hagari.
We urge all residents of northern Gaza and Gaza City to relocate south immediately. This is a temporary measure. Moving back to northern Gaza will be possible once the intense hostilities end.
When that will be is anybody's guess. Aid agencies and the UN's Secretary General continue to call for an urgent ceasefire. In Israel, there is also pressure on Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire from families worried their loved ones taken hostage by Hamas will be killed as Israel intensifies attacks. They held a protest in Tel Aviv, demanding time for negotiations to continue.
We are here today because yesterday's attack on the IDF that invaded Gaza, and no one is talking to us. We want answers. We want to ask questions to the government. We are afraid for our hostages, our family. We want to bring them home alive.
Netanyahu agreed to a meeting with the families this evening, insisting he's doing what he can to bring the hostages home. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Meanwhile, there were more protests around the world today against Israel's offensive into Gaza. One of the biggest was in London. The march wound through central London, ending at the Downing Street offices of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. Protesters demanded a ceasefire and demanded that Sunak himself call for the ceasefire as well. So far, Britain has only urged a pause in hostilities for humanitarian purposes. And we have breaking news out of Hollywood tonight. American sources are reporting that Canadian actor Matthew Perry, one of the stars of the hit TV show Friends, has died. Perry was 54 years old. He was best known for playing Chandler Bing on the hit 90s sitcom. TMZ was the first to report that Perry was found dead from an apparent drowning at his Los Angeles home earlier today. LA police are now said to be investigating the death. For the very latest on this developing news, you can head to cbc.ca/news. In local news, risks in the backcountry are going up as temperatures go down this weekend. North Shore Rescue has already received roughly a half dozen calls from stranded hikers unprepared for the winter-like conditions. Yasmin Gandam has that story.
So we have winter conditions out there and people need to be prepared for that.
Requests for rescue spiking as winter conditions make the trails much riskier. North Shore Rescue says going out in the trails requires proper gear and planning.
Always bring extra layers, especially now, because if you get injured, you're going to be sitting waiting for rescue for quite some time potentially. So you need to be able to keep yourself warm.
Dank says he is expecting more calls from runners with the risk of slipping and falling in the icy conditions as people are surprised by the low temperatures and snow already on the ground.
We've certainly had some winter calls that have come in for people that have gone ultralight. They've been caught off guard that there's snow in the backcountry. They've spent a night out and they have been very dehydrated and very hypothermic in the morning, and we've in fact gone in to assist them out.
Danks recommends to ensure friends or family know where you're going so that if you do not return, they know where to look. Hikers at Mount From in North Vancouver say it is risky out there.
Well, there's the conditions can change quite a bit, and the terrain is a little slippery, but it's still gorgeous out there. And I think as long as you're wearing the right equipment and whatnot, you could still enjoy the conditions.
This outdoor education expert says don't go out unless you are prepared.
Oh yeah, it's definitely risky right now. Like I prefer to wait until there's at least a meter of snow up there. I find when there's just a little bit of snow, now you're just mixing in kind of snow and ice on roots and rocks, and it's a lot more dangerous, I think, at this time of the year than it is sometimes a little bit later on.
But hikers are still out enjoying the sunshine.
We're training for when the snow.
So we do like striding. We do a lot of pretending.
The snow is expected to increase in the coming weeks with temperatures feeling like or below zero. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, North Vancouver.
To the Kootenays now, and fertilized kokanee salmon eggs have been released into a creek near Creston. It comes a month after more than 3 million fish eggs were collected from a river. And as Corey Bullock explains, it's all part of a program to restore dwindling populations in Kootenay Lake.
A chilly fall morning in Creston didn't stop this large group of people from coming together to celebrate a small fish.
This is a huge moment for our valley, and a moment that I hope we remember, and in 3 years we see redfish again in these creeks.
Groups of school kids from across the region were at Summit Creek, along with local leaders. Together, they learned about the life cycle of the kokanee salmon before releasing eggs into the creek.
The project involves the collection of surplus kokanee salmon eggs, incubation of the eggs at a freshwater fisheries society hatchery, and release of the eggs into the north and south arms of Kootenay Lake.
Kokanee populations in Kootenay Lake have drastically dwindled. The Creston Rod and Gun Club is managing the project with help from provincial biologists. And the Lower Kootenay Band has also given its support.
This is indeed the unceded territory of the Lower Kootenay Band, Yakanuki. However, today we acknowledge that we must be good neighbors. Neighbors that work together with a common vision.
A vision that Mayor DeBoon says is a priority in the Creston Valley.
I'm hoping that we build on the success of this to the point where the beds of the Goat River are red once again, that Summit Creek has a red bottom when it's supposed to have a red bottom, and that there are other rivers and creeks along the lake that the numbers come back.
The partnership hopes to restore the fish to their former glory, and its success starts with teaching kids about the issue.
That is our role. We take care of the land, take care of the water, take care of the animals. And we must remember to do this all the time and start at a very young age, so it's exciting to see the young children here.
Millions of fish eggs are now in tubes in Summit Creek. They're safely buried under the gravel where they will hatch in spring. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Creston.
A Vancouver man has run 200 laps around the elementary school that he teaches at. Why? Well, it's to send a message to the federal government. As Michelle Gomez explains, he's urging Ottawa to follow through on a promise of a national school food program.
This teacher ran 200 laps around Lord Roberts Elementary School on Friday. He's calling on the federal government to fulfill an election promise to implement a Canada-wide school food program. In distance, he ran more than 2 full marathons over the course of 12 hours.
The Government of Canada in 2021 committed $200 million a year to develop a national school food program. And we're ready for it. My students are ready for it. This country is ready for it.
Friends, family, and students showed up to support.
It's important for all kids to have food.
Healthy food, yeah. Why are you here today?
Because I wanted to support my uncle.
Lord Roberts has their own meal program. It's made a world of difference for Francesca Murray, whose child is in 7th grade.
We're struggling to provide food for our kids. We're struggling to buy grocery every month and so forth, right? I didn't plan for my illness to happen. I had no idea that it was going to happen. And so having something like this gives me as a parent that peace of mind.
With rising inflation, Mansfield says this program needs to come sooner rather than later, especially since Canada is the only G7 country without a national school food program. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
A stunning array of Indigenous artwork has found a home in Victoria. Well, the Canadian Orca Rescue Society unveiled the colorful pieces of art at the Orca Community Gardens today. This art was created by members of House of Courage. It's an Indigenous recovery center. In Vancouver, if you were walking along the seawall today, you might have done a double take. Dozens of costumed young people descended on the city's shoreline for a Halloween-themed cleanup. As Janella Hamilton explains, Trick or Trash aims to empower youth to leave a positive footprint on a worsening climate crisis.
And you're going to talk with your groups about ways that we can be more sustainable around Halloween.
From candy to decorations, many are in the Halloween spirit this weekend. And while it can be a ghoulishly good time, it can also have a scary impact on the environment.
We've been finding lots of styrofoam today, little plastic pieces, cigarette butts, and it just makes me feel so sad.
17-year-old Caitlin Calderwood spends a lot of time on the water boating with her family and says she's shocked by the amount of garbage that drifts in on False Creek.
We found a big pile of tiny styrofoam pieces, and we know over 200 pieces we picked up. We know it doesn't decompose. We know the fish and the sea life may eat it, and we know it ends up in their stomachs.
Dressed in costume with tongs in hand, Calderwood joined roughly 60 others to pick up trash. It's part of Ocean Wise's Youth to Sea program, connecting young people with hands-on ways to learn about sustainability.
As a youth and my future, I want to see the environment clean and healthy and thriving, and I think it's important to be responsible of our impact.
Organizers say the 10-month program also serves as an outlet for young people feeling anxious about climate concerns.
I think what the youth find is that they're finding family and community that shows them that they are one person who wants to make a difference, but there's hundreds of like-minded individuals that are out here wanting to do the same, so it can make them feel a lot less alone.
I feel it. I don't know about you guys, but knowing my friends and I joke about what's the whole point of doing this test if the world's gonna burn? You know what I mean? I don't know if anyone else jokes about that, but that definitely impact it's in my brain. Oh, a sock hanger.
They say it shouldn't be just a seasonal thing either.
I know it's Halloween, trick-or-treating and stuff, but just being aware. And it's really not a hard thing to do, so I feel just making sure you're putting your garbage away, being aware of the stuff you're buying.
Doing your own costumes, reusing, and getting rid of any candy wrappers you see.
A small act that can help make a big difference, they say, in the long run. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
And with Halloween just around the corner, many families are embarking on the quest to find the perfect pumpkin. So what does make the perfect pumpkin exactly?
It was a nice shape. It was tiny and cute. I love tiny things and they're really cute and round.
I like one that's nice and round and that sits well and doesn't tip over.
And if you are doing some last-minute Halloween costume preps and Barbie is top of mind, well, get in line. Costume stores say people can't get enough of the top grossing movie of the year.
Everybody's
wants to be Barbie this year. And a few Kens, but definitely Barbie is the number one. I mean, even since the movie came out, people were buying fabric to make costumes to wear to the movie. Everyone dressed up. People are going to Barbie murder mysteries, and now we have a couple of Barbie costumes. We have wigs to sell. We have lots of fabric to make your own Barbie outfit. No, you can never have enough pink.
Up next, we head stateside where the manhunt for the shooting suspect in Maine has come to an end with the gunman's death. We are in the community of Lewiston, and we'll take you there after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's take you to the U.S. and public memorials continue in Lewiston, Maine tonight. It comes barely 24 hours after the suspect in Wednesday's mass shooting was himself found dead. Katie Simpson is there with the latest.
Nearly everywhere you look around downtown Lewiston, there are reminders of the pain this community is suffering through.
I don't know, there's so many words and not enough words to explain what's happened. It's a community it's not very big and everybody knows everybody.
Vigils and funerals are now being planned. Some people here are just trying to keep themselves busy to make it through the days ahead.
For me, it's you just kind of have to throw yourself back into work, and you're there for those that were worse off than you.
As the public community grieving process begins, authorities are revealing what they believe may have led to this shooting rampage. They say the suspect's mental health history was a factor in this case.
The mental health aspect of this, there's a piece of that where there's paranoia, there's some conspiracy theorist piece that I think what I've read and what I've seen is that the individual felt like people were talking about him.
The suspect was found on Friday evening with a self-inflicted gunshot wound inside an unlocked trailer at the recycling business where he had worked. Police searched the property twice but missed Robert Card's body because they didn't check the overflow lot where the trailer was parked. Police say Card killed 18 people and wounded another 13 after opening fire inside a bowling alley and a restaurant on Wednesday. 2 guns were found on him, a third recovered from his abandoned vehicle. Weapons authorities say all were purchased legally. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Lewiston, Maine.
You're looking at a live shot of Science World all lit up in orange for Halloween. Well, cold and clear is the headline forecast for most of BC. Just how low will those temperatures go? I'll have the 5-day forecast next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. With the changes to how Canada is able to access journalism online and on social media, we want to assure you that when you're looking for CBC News, you'll always be able to find us. Wherever you are in BC, local news, breaking stories, and the latest from around the world is at your fingertips any time of the day with the free CBC News app and online at cbcnews.ca. Download the CBC News app and stay connected wherever you are.
One of BC's most adored animals, the American Pika, is believed to be particularly threatened by climate change. As our Darius Madavi explains, researchers at UBC Okanagan have been developing a new tool to monitor the species.
Whether you call it a pika or a pika, because both are correct, if you've seen these cute little guys in the wild, you probably considered yourself pretty lucky. Now, they are a mountainous species. They're found throughout BC's coast mountains and the Rockies. And I recently came across the coolest research project out of UBC Okanagan. It has pikas, it has climate change and genetics. So I talked to the researcher, Kate Arpin. She just defended her master's thesis at UBCO, and her enthusiasm is infectious. Take a listen.
To actually be able to be there and see the study species and see the study area and the area that ultimately you're working towards better understanding and hopefully in the future better protecting.
So as part of the Russello lab at UBCO, she's been developing a new tool to better monitor the species. Living in the mountains and being so especially sensitive to temperature, many pika populations are believed to be especially prone to range shifts, where animals have to move because of climate change. And there's evidence some populations are already moving upslope. Research on U.S. populations suggests they are in decline in some areas. As the climate warms, they have to keep moving up the mountain until there's just nowhere left to go. But as Arpin told me, since they are so sensitive, they can also act as a bit of a canary in the coal mine.
American pikas are known as an indicator species. So by studying population characteristics, you can hope to get an indication of how environmental change might be impacting their ecosystem and therefore the environment that they live in.
Now, right now, Parks Canada relies on occupancy surveys, where they count the number of hay piles that pikas build as food storage for the winter, which is adorable. But this doesn't tell you nearly as much as genetic tools. So Arpin, along with collaborators like her supervisor Russello and Tony Einfeld at Parks Canada, have been developing a new kind of tool.
The genetic monitoring tool was developed to include genetic markers that can look at a wide variety of different population characteristics, ranging from, for instance, differentiating between different individuals and looking at broad-scale patterns of connectivity.
And in this case, the researchers found that the tool was extremely accurate using tissue samples, although they said there's more work to be done for non-invasive samples, which is scientist speak for poop, since the error rate there was still fairly high. When the tool is refined from just a little poop pellet, you can learn so much about the individual pika, including potentially even how populations are evolving over time, altogether giving us a much more complete understanding of how these adorable little guys are doing, as well as their ecosystem as a whole. Darius Madavi, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's time for a look at the forecast, and a chilly evening it is. Look at these current temperatures, at least around the lower mainland, still at 4 degrees in Vancouver. That's usually our overnight low, but we're not even at midnight, and we are set to get a whole lot chillier than that. The blue is really representative of just this Arctic front that's parked over most of Western Canada at this point. Here's where we're going to go tonight. This is how low we're going to get. Keep in mind, these overnight lows are anywhere from -3 to -10 degrees below seasonal, so certainly a lot chillier than what we've been used to, and a lot colder than normal as well. Our daytime highs are more near where they should be for this time of year in many areas, but it's really those overnight lows that are getting us much colder at night. Lots of sunshine, though, and that is representative of this high pressure system that's parked over most of BC, and as we said, most of the western provinces, in fact, and that's bringing us those blue skies, lots of sunshine, and really zero precipitation to speak of for the most part over the next few days. Just a little bit of cloud cover, especially in the north, but otherwise, nothing but sunshine, at least to start your work week. We will see some rain return, but that's not until the middle of the week, and even then, that's not for all of BC, but certainly the lower mainland will see some rain return in just a few days. That is the late news for this Saturday, October 28th. For news anytime, anywhere, you can download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online as well. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.